Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today I want to answer a question that I've been getting from California a lot lately, especially since I moved from California to Nevada. And that question is, comes in different forms. I'm a California resident. I'm going to be visiting Nevada. Am I allowed to purchase ammunition and magazines while I'm there? And so today I want to answer that question for you guys and give you a little bit more details on what's involved. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, first things first, I want to mention, as always, that I am not a lawyer, and this should not be considered legal advice. If you need actual legal advice, I suggest you contact a competent Second Amendment attorney. You guys know how fast things change and fluctuate between these two states. You know, California being so anti-gun and it leaking over into Nevada, one day something could be legal, the next day something could be illegal, so it's best to do your research at the time that you plan on going, or, you know, the time you plan on leaving the state or making any choices that you might be making. Now, with that being said, yeah, it's perfectly legal for somebody to come over from California and get ammunition and magazines in Nevada. That's not a problem. Ammunition and magazines are sold in an area where you don't have to get them from behind a counter. You don't have to fill out any paperwork. You don't have to show any ID. You simply grab what you want. You get the magazines that you want. You go up to the counter and you pay for them. If you were somebody who was traveling, let's say, from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and you see that Bass Pro Shop that's on the 15 freeway, you decide to stop in there real quick to see what they have. These are all things that are sold commonly without any type of background check or anything like that. So as a California resident, yes, you can buy ammunition and magazines. However, there's kind of a caveat to that. One thing is there are almost always going to be some type of undercover agent or somebody watching you in the parking lot. It's just a way of life, the way that it is these days, and this has been happening for quite some time now. It's been increased since ammunition background checks took place in California. I'll play a little clip from you for you. This is actually taking place up in Reno. That just kind of proves what I'm saying here.
While we were here in Reno, we learned of an arrest that happened on the California side of the border. Now, apparently, law enforcement saw what they thought was a shady deal at the gun show. They followed that driver and pulled him over once they crossed the California state line.
Now, in my own personal opinion, I think that every single gun control law in the books is an infringement of our Second Amendment rights. Whether it be big or small, it's still an infringement. Whether it be so minor that people don't even know about it, or it's so major that it makes national news, it's still an infringement. The Second Amendment is the only amendment that actually says shall not be infringed, and that's because our framers knew that if the government was able to manipulate the Second Amendment and render it ineffective, then all of the other freedoms that we enjoy that are protected by the Bill of Rights would also become null and void and ineffective, because there's no way to defend against the tyranny that would try and take those things away from you. So I feel like all of these laws are an infringement. But with that being said, let me go ahead and break down exactly what the enforcement of the current laws that are on the book, which to me aren't valid, but still being upheld by law enforcement and the Department of Justice in California, and, you know, people who would seek to take away our rights. So right now, as it stands, if you were to come here and you were to purchase one of those things, you would have to use it and leave it here in Nevada. That's basically the way that it goes. If you were to try and take that back and get caught doing so, then the powers that be would arrest you and throw you in jail and not even think twice about it, in which case you're going to lose whatever Second Amendment rights that you might have left in California anyway, because with certain penalties, that's one of the things that you could lose. So yes, you can purchase, you can use, you can have fun with, and everything else in the state of Nevada with those things. But it's the second that you cross state lines that you kind of go back into a world that to me, a Second Amendment doesn't even exist anymore. It's something that we're all fighting very hard to bring back. We're fighting hard to restore the Second Amendment in California. You have people like the Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America. You have the Cal Guns Foundation, Gun Owners of California. I mean, there's so many different groups and foundations out there that are trying to restore Second Amendment rights in California right now, that it's absolutely incredible. There's lawsuit upon lawsuit upon lawsuit that are going through the court system in California right now to try and get this stuff overturned. But for the time being, as long as law enforcement is willing to enforce these unconstitutional laws, then there's going to be a penalty to be paid if you get caught with them. So I'm telling you what is allowed and what's not allowed by what's enforced. Not because I agree with it, it's just the way that it is. So again, you can come over state lines and you can get those things, but they have to be used and they have to be left here and they can't be brought over. That's just kind of the way it is. If you were to try and come from California to Nevada and do anything that requires a 4473 or anything that requires a background check, it's just not going to happen. You're going to have to show a Nevada ID in order to make those things happen. So for anybody that's saying, I'm going to be coming from California, from Sacramento over to Reno, and anything that you're looking at requires some type of background check or 4473, you're going to have to produce a Nevada ID. And so that's kind of where that side of the coin falls. Okay, so when it comes to background check stuff, it's completely gone. But anything that's sold on this side of, our side of the counter that you can just grab and go, there's no need to see an ID unless maybe there's some type of age requirement involved, in which case you'd have to show your ID for that. And that still shouldn't be a problem as long as your age is within the limits that is required for that particular product. So this is a question that I get a lot. I get it a lot, and I totally understand it. What's happening in California is very tough. I lived there for 43 years. I ran this channel there for 6 years under these types of laws, and it was really difficult to run a channel, and it was also very, very expensive because I was coming back and forth from Nevada to California to test things out. I would test it out here, and then I would leave it here with family or friends or something like that, and then I would head back to California, and I would have to deal with those laws, and then I would travel back and forth just so I could review certain things that weren't available in California. So it was costing me a lot of money, and one of the reasons why I ended up moving here, because I was here so much anyway. So it's difficult, and I understand the questions and why those questions come through and what people are trying to do and what people are looking to do. They're not looking to circumvent the law. People that ask that question, or people that are looking to get around the laws in California, they're not trying to break the law. They're simply trying to enjoy their Second Amendment rights that have been taken from them unconstitutionally by the people who are in charge of making law in California. And you can't fault them for that. You can't blame them for that. You have all these laws that are in place over there, all of these laws that are keeping people down, laws that are holding people back, laws that are infringing on people's rights and freedoms. It's no wonder that people want to find a way to still be able to feel free in the United States of America. You're born here and you live here, or you're somebody who moved here and you've immigrated here, and you hear all these great things about how free it is, and you have free speech and all these different rights, and then all of a sudden you find out that, wait a second, I'm not as free as the guy who's 3 hours away. I'm not as free as the guy who lives 4 hours away. I am under scrutiny from my government more than a guy who lives, right across the border. I don't have the same freedoms in California that I would if I were to move to Georgia or Alabama or Nevada or Utah or something like that. And so it is kind of eye-opening for some people, and they may not have the means to move. I know it cost me a lot of money. I saved up. I had to sell a bunch of stuff, but it still cost me almost $10,000 to move from one area to another. It was a very eye-opening and very expensive experience, but it's one of those things where you have to figure out whether or not the sacrifice is going to be worth it, So I just wanted to answer that question again, and hopefully things get turned around. Again, I know the Firearms Policy Coalition is working very hard on the behalf of California citizens out there who, not only the people that want their freedoms back, but they're working on behalf of those people who don't even care anyway. It's everybody. This is everybody's freedom. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, what you act like, as long as you are a citizen of the United States, you should be afforded the same freedom. So hopefully things turn around soon, and we'll see what happens. But I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I hope that answers your question. Have a great day.